Imagine being the only dude in the world who Zlatan Ibrahimović is afraid of. Can you even dare to dream this? Now, try to imagine the fights, the threats, and even Zlatan being shocked threatening to put an end to people's careers. Here are 8 footballers who had a beef with Zlatan, and the first one is a rivalry that marked him as Ajax's anti-hero in the 2000s. Rafael van der Vaart was also Ajax's star at the time, as they were about to secure their 4th consecutive Dutch title. Of course, because he performed so well that people began to nickname him as the next Johan Cruyff, and the one who will be carrying the team into the future. That changed when Ajax was willing to spend a lot of money on a young rated Swede, who was believed to be the next boon to football. That Swede was Zlatan Ibrahimović, as it turns out. When Zlatan joined, he took control in the changing room. But Van der Vaart was never used to the lights being split between he and Zlatan. Initially, there was what could be described as a tolerance of each other, but the battle of egos soon ensued. While they maintained some decorum of conflict for some time, they finally erupted when there was a match between Swedish and Dutch teams. Ibrahimović Zlatan was storming towards the penalties area while focusing at the goal. As always, he was willing to go to any length to get the goals, even if he has to knock over his partner. Sweden netted a goal, and then this followed Van der Vaart, who twisted his ankle badly, and he is not a happy man. He went ahead to accuse Zlatan of intentionally hurting him, a statement that provoked the Swedish striker. Zlatan immediately fired back and said, "I don't like you. I don't like you as a captain. I didn't intend to injure you." This was as powerful as a punch and cracking as his on-field performance. After this, any relation between them could only be marred by conflict, thus making it difficult for them to be on good terms again. A little later, Zlatan Ibrahimović left Ajax and joined Juventus, where he started the creation of the image of a negative hero in soccer. Indeed, this stance increased when he challenged Marco Materazzi, a player who also did not have time for nonsense. Their beef is the best worst instant karma that I have seen. Zlatan, always keen on confrontation, decided to face Materazzi one-on-one during a match between Juventus and Inter Milan in 2006. Materazzi is not a new name in soccer, or should I say FIFA World Cup, because he was the player subjected to a headbutt by the great Zinedine Zidane in 2006 FIFA World Cup final. But on this day it was Zlatan and Materazzi who crossed each other's path. They were both laid into each other on the pitch, and things really became a bit rough, which is expected whenever these two football giants clashed. Materazzi was to assign the role of ensuring that Zlatan does not open his mouth to play all night, which was very hard for him. I mean, Zlatan is a big man, and Materazzi knew this very well. Thus, this man realized the only possible way to get rid of him was to kill him outright. This was a déjà vu of what Zlatan had done to Van der Vaart in the past years back. Materazzi brought third Zlatan's game that night off with brutal tackle. However, Zlatan was not the kind of man who forgets. Fast forward 4 years, it was payback time of Zlatan, who had to get back at Marseille in the worst way possible. In a match played against Inter, he nearly sent Materazzi to the hospital by using an elbow to his jaw. The referee was assiduously avoided by all the participants of the game, by the time Zlatan later admitted that he did it on purpose just to get even. Brutal. But Materazzi was not going to let Zlatan laugh the last, so he engaged him in conversation again. Shortly after, he posted a picture of Inter Milan celebrating their treble victory. With a cutting caption, "I arrived, I observed, I triumphed. Always. And in any case, thank you, Ibrahimović. Without you, we would not have been victorious." Ouch. At this, it was words at work, but the score was seemingly posted. A few months after that, though, Zlatan found himself matched up against one of some of the most surprise fighting of his career. This time, it wasn't about a word or a rude gesture, it was about the very existence of an organization. The man who put Zlatan to the test was Onyewu, and he didn't look the role model of a center-back at all. Onyewu was brick-shaped, although a little lighter, a heavyweight boxer in build, and his sheer physical presence ensured that he intimidated anyone in front of him. But if there's one guy who would never expletive refuses to run away from a fight, it's Zlatan. Here's the kicker: that time Onyewu and Zlatan are teammates in AC Milan before this infamous event happened. From Ferguson's revelation as responded by Zlatan, the trouble began because he was not particularly comfortable with the manner in which Onyewu played the aggressive role against him during drills. During an argument with the goalie, he aimed to do something No had done before he silenced Zlatan. It did not take much with Chantel, though, to touch that sweet spot within her and have her ready to go. Zlatan was enraged. The next time Onyewu had the ball, Zlatan went into a challenge with a raised boot and DD intention of doing any damage. He missed, but what followed was complete mayhem. He headbutted Onyewu and both players started charging at each other, looking forward to ripping each other apart. According to Zlatan himself, "We wanted to tear each other to shreds alive, it was savage." After the fight, Zlatan learned he had cracked rib but did not report it. However, Onyewu's performance in the match was noteworthy because he was the first player to manhandle the great Swedish player. However, it was not only the fights that were inside the football field, in which Zlatan was facing many challenges. He was also a tremendous trash talker, and if you allow him to brainwash you, he will feast on your essence. Just ask Romelu Lukaku. As it will be reminded during the Milan derby in October 2020, the tensions were already sky high. At the half interval, Lukaku obviously felt uncomfortable with a slap in the face by AC Milan defender Alessio Romagnoli, and thus gave the referee an ear bashing. This, of course, is the ultimate troll, and Zlatan couldn't resist it. "For God's sake," he said to Lukaku, "relax, mate," but Lukaku was not in the mood for a word with a fellow footballer, especially Mr. Sheriff. He was ready for battle. That's when Lukaku asked Zlatan, "And what will you do if I don't?" Zlatan's response was savage finally. "Such threats as 'I'm going to break every bone in your body if you open your mouth' were sufficient enough to start the fire." The two wanted to have the better part of each other, Zlatan even beckoning to Lukaku to come to the tunnel. The conflict is serious this time, but to be fair, maybe Zlatan over-dramatized it a little. Further, video previews showed more about Zlatan's direct disrespect and utterances, where he called Lukaku to go home and tell his mom to cast a voodoo spell on him. That was personal, too much so, really. But this was not the first time Zlatan had been there. Zlatan was equally pulling the stunt during an MLS match for the LA Galaxy in 2018 on Needham Onuoha of Real Salt Lake. And with 60 minutes played, and the contest becoming tensed, Onuoha was, in fact, beginning to give Zlatan a hard time, something which the latter did not take kindly to. Zlatan began the threats and warning statements to Onuoha. "Homie, I'm going to do you, watch the clock, I'm going to do you." As much as Zlatan would post the winning goal for his team to clinch the game, Onuoha could not cease fuming. He was angry at Zlatan for his foolishness, and did not even bother to listen to his apology afterwards, which simply indicated the extent of rage bare from the words uttered. It is a well-known fact that Zlatan is not easy to tackle either physically and verbally. Opponents are perfectly aware of this, and they sometimes give him the first blow, because they know that he will not surrender. Just ask Tyrone Mings. In a football match between Manchester United and Bournemouth, what Mings did to Zlatan, where he stamped on the Swede's head and was as cavalier as the act. The audacity. Zlatan and Mings were really feisty throughout the match, much to the pleasure of the fans, and the FA intervened. Mings was penalized a 5-game suspension, while at the same time, Zlatan had to serve a 3-game ban. However, Mings had done it inscribing his identity on the future that was Siglind's. Well, in that aspect, Zlatan, you had been taught a lesson, and you did not have the upper hand for once. It is, however, obvious now that Zlatan never wants to be out of the limelight. He feeds of controversies, including with what seems to be football personalities. Case in point, Cristiano Ronaldo has received some VT away from Lionel Messi in football this time around, and trusts Zlatan Ibrahimović to paint the picture for us. Wayne Rooney, for instance, when Ronaldo was at Manchester United, Rooney did a lot of the work, while Cristiano reaped most of the benefits enjoying the goals. Zlatan had something to say about it. Rooney, if anything, performed, fought, and even gave his sweat for his team more than the player from Madrid. That was a slap at Ronaldo, which meant that, while he was enjoying his glory, others were out there working hard. To make things even more awkward, this came just a few weeks after Ronaldo's sit-down interview with Piers Morgan, where he expressed his issues with Rooney. Then, at the most expected time, even Zlatan was ready with his verdict on it. It has become quite evident by now that Zlatan is not exactly fond of Ronaldo, at least not the current reincarnation of Ronaldo. But what did Ronaldo do? He didn't. Mikel decided to completely blank out Zlatan with regards to the whole issue. Zlatan even went further, saying that the Portuguese is not even truthful with the whole story of his exit from Manchester United in January term to wait and see, because the truth about Ronaldo would come out one day. This is Zlatan typical to himself. He does not hesitate in provoking another superstar with this kind of attitude. The real truth coming out? Yay, maybe Zlatan has a habit of interjecting himself into other people's affairs. But Ronaldo? He does not have the time to do that. Perhaps that is why Zlatan carries so much anger for Cristiano Ronaldo, who scored a hat-trick in 2013 and sent Sweden packing from the World Cup qualifiers, which was the only chance they could ever get. But let's be real, especially. I'd like to state that the last is true once again, and Zlatan's a lucky guy. He has been entangled in some verbal wrangles throughout his career, and he almost paid the supreme price in 2003, when he engaged in a heated war of words with his former teammate at AJA Mido. Here's how it went down. Zlatan and Mido were just unlucky enough to have a match in which their team was brutally embarrassed by a rival team, namely PSV. Hearing this, in the locker room, Mido got angry and told his teammates that they are all wimps and do not pass the ball. Zlatan himself at that time was young boy, but I tell you, he had secured himself from any single person coming close to disrespecting him to that extent. He kept on reacting to Mido and told him they've been a weakling while pointing at him. Mido's response? It wasn't exactly a tranquil night, to say the least. Without any warning, he quickly picked a pair of scissors and threw it at Zlatan. They narrowly aimed at him and shot, but only the wall beside him inside which the bullets lodged with a thud. That is how a number of moments absent could easily have been badly injured, let alone killed. Fortunately, he at least survived that, at least physically. Even for those who have never watched football, you can tell that you have got to love the bad boy image which Zlatan embodies so effortlessly. He feeds on antics. Fight, dispute, quarrel, war, dispute, feud, and if there is no fight to fight, he would create one and take the side or the center stage of a fight. They are just belonging to a legendary of Zlatan Ibrahimović. And the best part? The Swedish god himself watches our channel,